I am sure glad that you are back if you've been with us before. And if you're just now dropping in, welcome to Chris's Granite Paradise, which is a sculpture and rock garden here in Fort Collins, Colorado, that is comprised of 27 or so large stone sculptures made of reclaimed byproducts, such as sink cutouts, from the stone countertop industry. Here in this sculpture, for example, we are seeing some sink cutouts, but also cut-offs from the ends of slabs and so forth. On this channel, we dig into cool stone projects, one of which is this sculpture that we are seeing here just after a rain. I built it from exotic natural stone slabs over the last 4 videos of this series. Today is part 5. And I just want you to enjoy these amazing natural stones, which are from about as many countries as there are pieces to look at here. We also talk on this channel about all kinds of rocks and minerals, which, as you can see here, I'm beginning to place on the sculpture. It turns out that I still have material left over, and so today we are beginning to build what I hope will be a similar companion sculpture to this one, serving the same purpose of showing off exotic materials while also providing me with tons more space to display amazing rocks and minerals that simply need a home where they can be seen. So stick around and we'll get started. Hello, my name is Chris, and I'm a rockaholic. The first thing we need to do, because this second companion sculpture to this has to go over here, I really have nowhere else to go, so I'm going to move all of this material and basically stage it along this pathway here, as well as the other piles I have around the yard. From 2008 until 2021, I brought home on a regular basis really anything I thought was either good for sculpture building or just a unique or interesting stone variety. Obviously, the more regular and repetitively shaped items, such as the more common sink and range top cutouts, got used more easily in the larger sculptures you see around here. Now I am down to mostly just odd, broken, or cut off pieces, trimmings, that had they not been of an exotic stone likely would have ended up thrown away even by someone like me. But being the rockaholic that you all know me to be, I did not realize I had such a mess of small pieces here. I was hoping I had some bigger stuff. I'm not sure what was in my mind when I brought all this little junk, but we'll make it work. It's gonna look beautiful. Yes, I brought home a lot of trimmings and cutoffs, just for their coolness factor, as I like to call it. Okay, the good news is, between the last piece of base material that I laid down here temporarily and the one that's underneath, I can make a nice base. So that's good news. And I do have one more big piece of quartz too that could double it up like we did on that one. Sorry, I'm out of breath. As you can see, I went to the gym. So you saw that little pile. When you get it all kind of not so organized, it's really a mess. But we're going to make it into something beautiful and useful, because that's what we do at Chris's Granite Paradise. These two pieces here will make a perfect base if I basically turn them at right angles to how they are, so that they're laying side by side that way. And then I can take my other large piece of quartz and lay it over the top, and so we'll have a double thick, pretty good sized base. It'll be, I think it'll actually be bigger than the base that's under this guy. So we're in good shape that way, but I do have to move the compost pile, which I kind of dread doing, but we're gonna do it. And I don't really have anywhere to go except just barely scooched over. I'm gonna try to pile it right there without going against my neighbor's fence. I always like to try to leave a little bit of space for obvious reasons. Speaking of my neighbor, he had raspberries several years ago, and I noticed one of them is coming up in here. So I might have to relocate that because we definitely want to keep that. But let's go ahead and move this over because we can't go any further until that's done. We have always tried to keep our yard as natural as possible. No chemicals, fertilizers, insecticides, etc. Same in the front yard with our huge trees. All of the leaves and trimmings, weeds that we pull, etc. get composted and spread back out just whenever I have time or feel like doing it. And it looks huge now, but it really shrinks down fast once I start using it up. Okay, very good. So that gives me at least a little room here. I think it gives me enough to lay my base. It may be rubbing against my back as I'm building the sculpture. But this circulation and putting dirt on top is going to help it all to rot a lot faster. Especially now that it's been raining. And you can see it's bone dry underneath, even though we've had quite a few good rainstorms. It's been dry for so long. It's going to take a lot of water to wet all that. But we're to the point where we can start. You guys know the routine if you watched the previous 4 videos. We're going to level the ground. We're going to turn these at right angles to how they are. There'll probably be a little gap between them, which I'll fill with some long strips that I have. And then I'll lay the other big base piece on top of that. And that'll give us a good solid foundation for this last creation. I imagine it'll be basically centered between this sculpture and the fence so that it's not so near the fence, but I could still walk through here. If you followed the other 4 videos, you might remember that at least 2 of those videos, if I remember correctly, were about the ground preparation. This time I am speeding through much of that process so that we can get more quickly to the fun part. I'll still throw in a few fun time lapses for you though. The ground here is, of course, very uneven. It's quite a bit higher here and than it is here. So I'm going to bring some dirt over, and I have an idea. Some of this smaller cement, I'm going to spread it out here and then cover it with dirt and then tamp it all down, and hopefully I can get it to all end up level. And I'll also move this sandstone so that the bases can come this way just a little bit. So we're looking good, guys. Well, it's just starting to rain, so we may get cut short here. But it's interesting where my pile was, my storage pile, the dirt's very low. And it's also quite soft. And then where the grass was, it's quite a bit higher. I must have piled dirt here over the years or something. So what I'm going to do, this is another one of those take care of 2 things at once projects. So I have some of this cement here that remains from the patio project. I'm slowly getting rid of it all. I'm gonna dig some of this soft dirt out and I'm gonna dump some cement in here to get myself a little higher up because this whole area is way too low. So we'll just start scooping. Well, on about my 2nd scoop, I totally forgot about the raspberry and I cut it off. So much for that great idea. Maybe it'll come back. It's always a good feeling to see the concrete pile getting smaller and smaller with each project. A good tamping down with a 150-pound stone slab should get most of the voids out of the soil. And I think it got a few voids out of my back as well. No wonder we get shorter as we age. Okay, I want to die. So, I got rid of quite a bit of my cement. Pretty good little pile. Is buried in there now. I'll do some more compacting and fudging, but at least now it's all pretty much level. I brought over what amounts to my last big piece that's suitable for a base. I kind of wanted to hold on to it for a workbench, but
This will just give me an excuse to get a hold of another one if I ever need to. Also brought over a bucket of dirt from my stash, because even though I leveled this off pretty good, it still needs a little more. Maybe not all of that, but I want to have it here just in case. All right, I spared you guys a little bit of toil. I spread out a little more dirt. Got this set up to where I'm ready. Just with the little trowel that I'm using, I got this fairly level. It's ready to be tamped. I'm going to try to bring my base pretty much right up to where that carpet is folded over. It might even sit in here in the corner. So I'm going to try to tamp this all down and get it as level as I can. The two white pieces that you saw earlier that were laying here originally, they're going to go basically one here and the other one over here somewhere. There'll probably be a gap in the middle, which I'll fill with, as you can see, I have an endless supply of strips. So I'll grab one of those that works, put it in between, and then this large piece will bridge over the top of it. And this, as well as the white ones, are quartz, so they don't break. So this is a wonderful base. It'll probably be even a bigger base than what's under that one. And I'm anticipating the sculpture will be similar, so it's all good. Let's get her tamped down.
As a general rule with these bases, remember that the idea is to have a snowshoe effect to keep the heavy sculpture from sinking into the soft dirt. And as weight is spread out, even minimally, it makes a huge difference. So my typical base consists of 2 layers, and I like the bottom layer to be a couple of inches bigger on all sides than the top. It's not rocket science, but it really does work. I prefer the quartz because it is incredibly strong and is not affected by frost the way that many natural stones are, which would be prone to cracking under the weight.
Yeah. Well, guys, considering that was all pretty much eyeballing it, it sure lays flat. Yeah, that went down nice. You can see there's a little bit of a gap where my slab strip is in the middle, just because that's thinner material, but the dirt will press down that much. And yeah, I'm real happy with it. I get the feeling hundreds of you guys are going to start doing this, so I figured I better show you what I'm talking about by laying flat. So you can see there's very little gap between the bottom pieces and the ground. I mean, some is to be expected. We're just talking about dirt. A little bit of a gap there. Remember, this is the low area that I'm going to fill in with concrete. But what's important here is that they overall be flat, and even more important is that this piece laying on the top doesn't have a gap underneath it. And you can see it's pretty darn tight all the way along, which means it's making contact with the 2 bottom pieces very nicely. Same thing over here. Obviously, it should be the same on this side. Yeah, so it went down much quicker than in some of my experiences. Usually I have to pick them up, take them off, tamp again, put more dirt. This time it pretty much went right down. Got rid of some of my ugly cement. So what I'll do here, obviously this pathway stone, I'm going to scooch over a little bit, and then I'll find a small stone. I think I still have a few. I might have used them all up, but I'll figure something out that can kind of continue the path over here. Because the only reason I come back here is for the compost pile and maybe to mess around with the plants up there, but there's really not much that goes on back here. Kind of thinking out loud here. I guess what I could have done, if I wanted to leave more space for the compost pile, which I really don't, it never gets any bigger than what it is, but I could have turned this base this way, and I could have run it all the way close to this path here, but it would be awfully tight walking through here, kind of like it is here. You see how here there's not very much space. So if I want to look at the rocks from Hawaii, for example, that I placed down here, it's a project to kneel down and not stab yourself in the back. So it's good that when we can, we leave a little extra space. So I'm glad we did it the way we did. For the last 18 years or so, we've always wondered what the purpose of this very heavy-duty pipe is. Right here, you can see it is quite thick. Oh, that's at least 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe even thicker. And Stephen, if you're watching this, you'll remember you and I, when I built this sculpture, we built it, you know, the base comes fairly close to this pole here. And as the sculpture settled, by golly, it caught on the corner of the concrete under here. This thing is in a big concrete block. And it caused the sculpture to settle unevenly. And my son Steve and I had to dig this up. It was over a Thanksgiving weekend. We dug a giant hole here to expose that concrete from underneath and tried to break a chunk off, which we did. And the sculpture has since settled just fine. But anyway, it's always kind of been an obstacle. I've tried to think of a good purpose for it. I'm going to cut it down. I've got a grinder with a 4-inch. Supposedly this is a metal cutting wheel. Looks awfully thin to me, but they tell me it works. Let's do some digging first. Figured if I could dig down a little bit and cut it below the ground, you know, so that when I put the landscape gravel over it, it'll be covered and look decent. I don't remember how deep the concrete goes. So here's some right
Most
here.
likely, back in the glory days, this pipe was somebody's laundry hanger post or something similar. Inside it, the depth ends right at the concrete level, which really rules out anything more consequential that it may have been.
I'm just saying if my grinder will get around it fairly easily, and I think so. I don't want to dig this hole any deeper than I have to, because of course that makes the ground unstable. Yeah, I think that's probably gonna do for us. All right, I hope you can see me, guys. Safety first. You gotta have earplugs, you gotta have gloves, you gotta have safety glasses. Make sure the string to your earplugs or the string from your hoodie isn't hanging down. So this is a really thin cutoff blade. We're gonna see how this goes. I'm gonna try to get rid of this pipe. All right, well, that was kind of dangerous. I didn't realize I was all the way through already. It fell in the right direction, though. Nice. So this is below the gravel line. So when I put the rocks there and landscaping, it'll be covered. I put my grinding wheel on. That's also for metal. You don't want to use your thin cutting disc to do the filing. I recommend a thick one like this, but just to get rid of the sharp edge, so that if somebody's digging around in the gravel, they won't get cut, you know, because otherwise it would be a hazard. Of course, I would rather have dirt, a little bit of dirt left over, than concrete. So every time I dig a hole around here for any reason, I always fill it in with cement. And gradually I'm getting rid of my pile of concrete, because the dirt will come up and cover this, and then I'll put the weed mat and the pretty gravel. So I can get rid of some more cement. I can still fit a little more on there.
I never imagined that dumping gravel out in slow motion would be this fun. Pretty much every aspect of these last builds not only creates a new piece of useful art, but also eliminates another unused pile of something in some other part of the yard. And so I feel like I'm getting twice as much done with the same amount of work. Really a good feeling. I stopped bringing home new materials about 5 years ago, and it has taken me this long to finally start getting down to the bottom of the barrel. Stay tuned though, there is still a long way to go here. Well, thank you guys for coming along this far. We've got the base laid, much of the landscaping done. So nice having that pipe gone. Now I can actually insert at least this shelf, and if I find another piece, I can still get one more shoved in there, and there's more space for some rocks to balance this sculpture out. So I couldn't put anything there when that pipe was there. And the base is laid. These cores are piled deeper than they need to be, but I don't think those are permanent. I have a feeling I'm going to, since these are bigger, and I've got like 4 different sizes even bigger than these, but I'm thinking on top of one of or both of these sculptures, I may build something like that. If I could zoom in on it. There we go. So, there's still a lot to come, guys. In the next video, which I think will be the 6th one, we'll start building. Let the party continue.